Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pantheon City. What a surprise! We are back after about 6 months. We've had some stuff going on in our lives as the first campaign of our program, which I should now inform you has changed its name. So first things first, let's introduce everybody here. As you might remember, Trevor Terry, Chris White, Clayton McNinch, Grace Kohler, Jarid Castiglione, all fantastic players of our first campaign here. Unfortunately, Joey was not able to join us today. I am your humble dungeon master, Joan Klock, and welcome to Minis and Mayhem. That is going to be the new name of our program because you see, the original name of our program, Bronco Tabletop, we were students. Some of us were students, right? And the problem is that we all kind of graduated from college. And that's fantastic news, but is that we kind of couldn't be supported by the university because we are no longer students. Which is a bit unfortunate, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Before we start off, I want to send out a quick thank you to a few people who helped us with everything. First of all, to Tomio Fujino, who helped me out with the writing for Pantheon City. The story literally would not be what it was today if not for his assistance. Several plot points were brought into existence by him. Excuse me. Percy Haley, who was our artist who did all of the artwork for Pantheon City, all of the cool character art that you're seeing on your on all the players' screens right now. That was all Percy's work. They are absolutely fantastic. Go check them out. If you are watching this on YouTube, I will make sure that I link them down in the description so that you can go visit their Twitch on your own and see their artwork and maybe get a commission from them. Get them a little money. They are fantastic. I want to thank Rae Barnes, who is our producer for this show, runs all the cameras, runs all the setup. Even now, they're like running behind the scenes, doing a fantastic job. We love Rae a whole lot. They've done so much for us. I want to thank Dr. Chris Haskell and the entirety of the Boise State Esports program for hosting us for as long as they did, providing us with the equipment that we used for our first season of the campaign, and for advice that really helped us build up the stream. To our cast and crew here, Trevor, Chris, Clayton, Grace, Jarid, you've all been fantastic. Also to Joey, who couldn't be with us here today, but he was also fantastic. And finally to you folks at home, our viewers at home, who have been absolutely wonderful to us. We love our fans. It's been wild having people walk up to us on the street and say, "Hey, I love your show." Super cool. So we're here to talk about Pantheon City. We're talking post-campaign. This is the opportunity for everybody, both the players and those of you folks at home, if you want to ask questions in Twitch chat, to be asking questions all about what is happening, what happened in Pantheon City, what happened behind the scenes, information like that. You can ask questions of the players and of me, and we're just here to hang out for an hour. Yes.
I think I speak for everyone where there also needs to be some thank you and gratitude to you, Joan, of course, as well.
Yes, absolutely. Let's give it up for Joan, everyone.
Woo!
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Joan,
much.
you're great.
You did an awesome job this season.
Absolutely.
Honestly, this whole thing is just like a dream to be running it, It's just absolutely beautiful. So what do you say we just start off? I have a couple of questions prepared for all of our players here to answer and chat about, and that'll kind of get us a warm up before the folks on Twitch have a chance to start asking questions.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to start with Grace. So Grace, Dr. Levine's backstory was very was super influential into crafting what Pantheon City's overall story ended up being. And I wanted to ask, like, how did you come up with that? What was the thought process on talking about that?
I think the way I honestly came up with it had to do with this idea of unexpected events just completely altering your life path. So Dr. Levine was originally just like a normal math professor and stuff until like one fateful moment and that basically altered their life. And I also kind of came up with some of this idea, of this idea of like fateful moments and like the trauma that they can leave a person with, and how how trauma itself is a spectrum, and how highly functioning individuals can kind of move through life and sort of reach a point where like people finally believe them and they can feel vindicated, or at least they can like come and find some semblance of closure and things. And that's what I kind of wanted the arc to be, which is what it ended up being. But a lot of the development I put into had to do with this kind of idea of like, because I think computers themselves can be mythological to a lot of people. Like, wow, there's numbers behind the screen. How do they work? And I thought it was definitely pretty interesting to kind of put in a symbol and kind of create Dr. Levine, this one character who ultimately comes to foil her nemesis and stuff as in sort of a narrative foil, and show that like there's even like the people we consider to be protagonists can definitely be morally gray, and definitely and kind of pose that question of like, well, do we require perfection in order to be accepted and find healing and stuff in life? And I think ultimately the answer to that is no. So she was a very fun character to play, that was for sure, and definitely some of the character dynamics themselves were fun.
Yeah, that honestly, that was a beautiful answer. I remember having to role play with you the scene of Dr. Levine having a panic attack and having to like play this character. Okay, I know Dr. Levine. I need to calm her down without like gaslighting her into thinking she didn't see what she saw, because she didn't. There was like a miscommunication between us as dungeon master and player there, that we had to like, I had to like hash that out in the moment without gaslighting you. That was to me like the roughest moment in the campaign between the two of us, aside from the scene in the sewers. But let's not talk about that one. That was a scary scene that maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, no, that was that. Yeah, I would say the sewer scene for me was probably the most tough scene in the series to role play, but um
Yeah.
but
Little warning there for anyone who goes back to watch episode, I think 12. Yeah, episode
yeah,
12.
it definitely is. It gets really violent
Yeah.
and very well screwed up there. So
Now that we're not attached to Boise State anymore, or I guess we never really were. We were sort of just like being influenced by them. We can get a little more adult. We can get a little darker. We can
Get a little
probably
thank God.
nasty.
we can
Sweet,
probably even
yeah,
say a swear every once in a while. But
yeah,
Oh
no,
gosh.
but
Oh baby, let's go.
Whoa.
oh yeah,
Are
no,
Larb's
I-
underplot's gonna sweep the rug out from
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh man,
that was the real
Man,
challenge in the series, not
only.
cursing.
True.
Yeah.
Chris, tell them about
Okay.
your second monitor.
Funny story. So in order, just because sometimes I'm really bad at cursing, so I literally put on my second monitor on my computer. I literally every D&D session I would put up this big red sign, and it said no swearing. That's it. That just said no swearing, and so every time
He showed it to
we'd
us
be
multiple
playing it.
times.
Multiple times. I've showed them to. Unfortunately I can't show it. I'm on a different setup right now. But like otherwise, I would show you guys. But it was just awesome. It literally every time I wanted to swear, I looked over to my second monitor. I'm like, oh, can't swear.
Don't do it.
Gosh darn it. Gosh,
Speaking of
darn
reminders,
it.
I wish I had a second monitor to have something on there that says after you cast a main leveled spell, you cannot cast another spell as a bonus action.
Oh my! I keep saying that we need to like go back onto those episodes and just get like a clip show of every single time. Every single
like a
time
Cinnamon
Trevor
I think it was
tries
3.
to cast 2 leveled spells. It was so
Maybe
good.
4.
You want a dangerous drinking game? Watch. Every time Trevor tries to cast 2 spells back to back, take a shot. You're done, bro. You're done.
Oh yeah, no, I mean every time someone has a traumatic moment, every time someone's gaslit, every time
death is a major theme.
Every
Take
time
a
Lucian
shot.
disrespects
Every
his
time someone
father.
has every time someone has parent issues.
Oh yeah, parental
yeah.
issues. Like Lucian alone would make somebody comatose.
Oh yeah, no, and then like he gets adopted by a woman who's also pretty much an orphan. So
Okay.
I don't. Just because he's not here, I don't want to like say for certain, but I almost guarantee you that Lucian would not have signed the adoption papers.
Oh yeah,
No.
no. I definitely think that too, which is why I find it interesting that like the parents warded him over to her.
I would love to run another. I would love to run a season 2, a follow up to Pantheon City someday in like the distant future. I'm still a little burnt out on all the Greek god stuff for now. I kind of immersed myself in that for a solid year, but I would love to come back. All of these characters still had lots of story that they had to tell. I'm going to take us back.
Could I just shout you out one more time, Joan? Amazing job doing a Greek mythology season that was appropriate for most audiences. Let's just say that.
There was so much stuff I had to cut. Oh my god, there is so much stuff I had to cut.
The Greek gods are not exactly PG.
There was a reason why Zeus never showed up.
Zeus cannot show up, or at least couldn't.
He couldn't before.
Zeus cannot show up without dropping his
pants.
He
can't show up. He's a ground man.
You know, he can come back for a season 2.
He could theoretically come back for a season 2. We're gonna go back to some of the questions I had prepped. I want to ask a question of Clayton. So, like a lot of us are who work here at Minis and Mayhem are queer, and you were the first person. You were the only player who played a character that did not match your gender identity. I wanted to ask why you decided to have Andromeda be non-binary. What was the thought process going into that, and how did it influence the character?
Well, actually, there were several things that sort of drew me to Andromeda being non-binary. The first is that as a queer person myself, I don't see enough queer representation in roleplay, especially, so it's nice to have that. And another thing was just the fact that nymphs in Greek mythology are it's very common for them to be non-binary or ungendered at all. And similarly, a lot of like Greek culture in ancient Greece, I'm talking about, didn't have as solid of boundaries around those things. So it just made more sense to have a character who sort of embodied that freeness of spirit, especially when we decided to go with Hermes and just have this more like easygoing, just ready to roll with the punches character. I felt like that fit the character better than either a male or a female role.
Hey guys, I've become an adventurer. Remember that? Oh, that I agree that Andromeda definitely the most free-spirited of the group. You did a lot of like wandering off and around during the campaign, the adventuring shop. You were also, I think, the only character who came from out of town, right? Everybody else grew up in Pantheon City.
Mm-hmm.
What was the gas mileage on your car, by the way?
Oh boy. You know, I thought about it and I was like, does it even run on gas? Because like I think it probably runs on like like nectar, nectar of the gods.
Oh, okay.
Just like
Or
this
like some
sweet
kind of divine
golden
power or
fumes.
something, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a silver Maserati granted to you by Hermes himself. So, who knows? I'm
Thank you
gonna
for letting me take that spell.
yes. We
Maybe
had a
maybe it
talk
was
about it. I was like, it's a
maybe it was
ritual
one of
spell all
Zeus's
about it.
maybe it
Zeus's
was one of Zeus's lightning bolts. Maybe.
maybe.
We'll never know until season 2.
Well, now that you have
No.
now that you've caught my attention, Chris, I want to ask a question of you. So to you, like this was a relatively new experience playing D&D, especially like obviously on the stream and everything. That's kind of crazy too. And I kind of want to ask I have two questions for you. The first was like, how did that what previous experience you did have influence how you played? And I also wanted to ask, like, because you had to leave part way through this season, was there anything that you wanted to know that our viewers at home might also like to know about where I was originally taking the story of Erwin and Gazu?
Right. Okay. All right. First question. So I haven't played a whole lot of D&D. And the D&D I've played more of like frontline, like barbarians and everything like that. Pretty much only barbarians. So this is like the first time I was playing something not like frontliney. And so like playing a wizard, it was super fun. Just being a support wizard I had so much fun playing it in the time I had. The amount of times I screwed over Joan was the like funniest times. Just like, oh wait, I'm gonna use this spell to make it so you can't do that anymore.
Oh my goodness, you invalidated so much of what I tried to do to everyone. Like literally the fight after you were gone, if everyone remembers the Pan Park episode, immediately like I nearly wiped half the party in the first turn without you.
I wanted to shout out Chris's character for our proof of concept one shot. Who learned very quickly to not run into the front lines.
The Eyes of the Mist incident.
Oh my gosh. So you guys probably will never wait, did we post that? We didn't post
don't
that,
remember
right?
if I know it is on our YouTube. I don't know if it's public right now. If you folks at home at Twitch would like to see we did sort of a proof of concept 2-shot setup, which was us trying to figure out how we wanted to run that. And I had all of the players with their characters. We just kind of ran a let's do a simple we'll do an episode of adventure and then an episode of combat. And so they all had completely different characters, and those were fun characters. And those were fun dynamics. I would love to revisit those also. There's so many different games I want to play. I have so many ideas, you guys. Okay, I'm going to calm down for a moment. But yeah, Chris's character was a prototype player. It was like a superhero, a guardian of the city.
Yeah, basically, it was like my mock wizard. Basically, I played a wizard, just kind of just like, okay, this is what a wizard is and everything like that. And so I'm an old man. I'm playing as an old man as a hero, but I haven't done any hero work in like the last like 30 years or 20 years, however long. So I'm like really rusty. And the first like one of the first turns, I misty step in front of the boss, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a great idea.
Jared and I both gave each
and
other a look when that happened. We were both like, oh, this is interesting. He's about to die.
I like the concept. You turned into like a giant flashlight next to him, but then he just said, oh, big light, big smash.
Yeah, it was. I then learned that my next wizard in the Pantheon City campaign will not be going into the front line, misty stepping into the front line anytime soon. But yeah,
He just
but yeah, I
freaking
honestly, I had a really
obliterated
fun
in a
time.
single hit.
It was so great
Um,
to have a superhero character get knocked out in the first
Oh,
round of combat.
it was
It was-
hysterical.
Oh man.
But to answer your second question, so this question actually I just thought of, and I had the thought before I even left. So if you guys don't remember, the last episode Aaron Gazu in was the Esports Arena episode, and me and Joan were talking. Like I told Joan, hey, I'm gonna be leaving at like this day, and she was like, oh, we got that like screws everything up. We'll figure something out. But if I didn't leave, Joan said that that this one scene you had a pretty big impact. Like you had two choices basically. I would either hit the shot or miss the shot. And in the end, I missed the shot, but it kind of like I just kind of curious what were like the two choices and like what was like the two pathways into that.
Okay, so to remind everyone at home of that big moment, I think it was episode like 6 or 7. I think it would have been an odd numbered episode, right? Because no, it would have been an even numbered episode because it was a non-combat one. So it would have been at the end of like episode, I think it was more like, well, maybe 8, 6, 8, 10.
It was an episode, yes.
It was an
It's a number.
episode. So
It was an
the
episode.
one right before the big fight in the esports arena, he had an option. He was given a deal with Kronos that could remove the curse from Gazu, and the wording was very deliberate there. He said that all I need you to do is I need you to give up the thing you love most, which is victory. I need you to lose. And in exchange, I will remove the curse from Gazu. For those of you who watched the show, you of course found out that it was a trick, that he did remove the curse from Gazu, and but he did so by passing it on to Erwin. So they basically ended up swapping places, and that was how we wrote Erwin and Gazu out of the campaign. And as for the second option, like if you had hit the shot, you would have won the tournament, right?
Right.
You would have won the tournament, and therefore the deal with Kronos wouldn't have gone through. And I'll be completely honest, I had not exactly planned what was going to happen either way. I just knew that this needed to be a big character moment for you. This needed to be a big moment of, like, I knew that either way I was going to write you out of the campaign with whatever you had to choose. And in this way, this gave me a chance to pull on that bargain, to flex that monkey's paw, I guess. And I'm really glad that it did end up going through. It ended up being a great character moment for Erwin.
Just so you know, Chris,
Yeah,
the winners of the tournament were brutally murdered afterwards. So
yeah, you see, what was happening was he wanted you to throw the victory because there was a shard of the Harp of Kronos inside the
Oh
trophy.
yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, which
I remember now.
Which they retrieved by slaughtering the other esports team and trying to steal the trophy. Except our party had already removed the shard, so y'all are fantastic.
That was pretty awkward. Pretty awkward.
big og.
I'm gonna keep going down the list here. I've got a couple more questions, one for Jared and one for Trevor. Let's start with Jared real quick. Larb was a fan favorite character. Like, we got a lot of love for Larb in the chat. That wasn't a question. So I wanted to ask, like, what inspired you to play such a lighthearted character? Because I know that we got a lot of like very dark characters in Dr. Levine, a little bit in Andromeda, definitely in Tristan. But Larb was very lighthearted. I want to, what's up with that?
It's the perfect formula, right? At the end of the day, drama is the two masks. You have tragedy and comedy. So despite how dark things may have been, Larb continued to try and be that comedic relief, and Granted, he had some buttons that if you pushed, he turned into a polar bear and tried to ice you. He tried to be the jovial one out of the group. At the end of the day, he didn't have anything, so he had everything to gain from the experience. He's a pretty grateful dude, very humble. He slept in dirt and poop and stuff, so anything was really like an upgrade from that point,
Yeah, I was like super grateful that Larb was able to be a breath of fresh air. I mean, between Larb and Erwin and Gazu, like we had that, like, those comedic duos, we had that lightheartedness. I remember episode 12 in particular was a really hard episode for everybody. And episode 13 was also difficult, but Larb, like, he alleviated a lot of that stress and pressure by just having this fun little trip to the zoo in the middle of all this chaos going on.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's my question to you, is how successful is that zoo?
It is a very successful zoo. It's being run by a druid who has the full might of a real estate empire behind him.
That's
that
fair.
zoo is very successful.
Perfect. And then almost like a tangential question for Grace. Your brother has a druidic daughter, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Dr. Levine's niece is a druid, and I definitely think that was a super wholesome arc of the campaign and showed like how community ties people together when Larb took on the daughter.
Yeah, that definitely like a little apprentice as well, especially at the zoo, learning to care for different animals and whatnot. At the end of the day, there's beauty everywhere. It just takes a little bit of time to find it.
Honestly, I just think that's beautiful.
Now for a little bit of selfishness. When did Larb and Cassandra from the Underworld get married?
That's a good question. That didn't happen in the
Season 2?
epilogue.
Season 2?
Season 2?
We could consider a season 2 of Pantheon City of Campaign 1. But that will not be happening anytime soon. And if it did, that would when we would want to be discussing the possibility of Larb and Cassandra getting married. But I would probably place it like a year after the end of the campaign or something like that, like 1 out of 4 years into Hades' reign. And
I have a quick question to go around the group that I think would be interesting. Since we're talking about another season, would any of you guys want to play your characters again in another season, or would you want to play someone new?
Oh, that's a tough question. I'd have to think about that a little bit longer, personally.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. I had so much planned for Gazu and Erwin that I need to play them a second time. So I mean that's my plan, but I think that's something we need to do for like another Pantheon City. But we're not planning that anytime soon.
There is so much story left in these characters. I've been thinking about it for ages. But please, by all means, continue. I'm just going to sit here fantasizing.
Yeah, no, I definitely would want to play Dr. Levine some more because, I mean, a lot changed from point A to point B. You have deeply traumatized woman who isn't believed go to someone that's sort of okay and suddenly is the guardian of this 11-year-old rogue that she works with to advance. And like I'd want to see kind of the character growth and evolution in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going off of that, like Joey, I feel like Joey, like he would just go to Dr. Levine's house, but like he wouldn't like care about it's like I'm not signing any papers, okay? I'm just living here rent free, okay? That's just my plan.
Yeah.
What about Andromeda, Clayton?
I think that there would have to be a specific type of plot to have Andromeda involved again. Like something where we're on the road or we're going somewhere else. I just feel like there's also so many more characters to explore in this Pantheon City universe that would be really interesting. Like I love the university and the opportunities that are offered there, and I mean, even being a part of like city council or something would be interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just other stuff that I think I'd like to explore as well.
Do you feel the same way, Trevor?
Yeah, so while I'm now living in Michigan and the next campaign is going to be in person, is my understanding, I would definitely play Tristan in the future, as he's one of my favorite characters I've ever like helped craft and create. And he definitely has more story to tell, especially with his new role
Mhm.
coming into himself and his place in the universe. So I don't know if I'm supposed to give spoilers, but he takes over for his father, and that may potentially make him
Whoa.
too powerful. So I don't know how that would work with balancing. I may have to be a character that's related to Tristan in some sort of a
To
way if
be
I were to
fair,
go that way.
y'all are like 10th level by the time the campaign
Yeah.
ended. So I think
Mhm.
that we could like 10th level. That seems like a good place to stick a new god. And you were probably, if I were to say just in terms of like raw power, I would say that Trevor was probably up there as far as the crew went in terms of raw power. So I think that would work
Absolutely.
out just fine.
Path to the Grave
I
is
mean,
incredibly powerful.
Especially if he's able to
the
cast
other
two
thing
spells back
is,
to back too.
Yeah, I'll multi-class
I
into
think
sorcerer.
Yeah, do that.
Just for quick and dispel.
Yeah,
Just take some meta magic
the
adept or something.
yeah, that's an
the
easier
other
way
thing
to do
is
that.
like if we were to do a season 2, even if you two weren't playing like the same characters, we could revisit those characters because
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we need help with them or something like that, and that could be how we
Always have a
connect them to
cameo.
the story.
Yeah, cameos are really fun,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
I always like playing new characters, and like stagnation
Mhm.
is no fun, and having something new is always a blast and very exciting. So yeah, I either way
Kristen gets a
really.
girlfriend. What?
Yeah, maybe, or
I
maybe
think
he's
it would be really cool to see like dinosaur Larb. Like that was obviously the end goal for him to turn into
Oh,
a dinosaur. It's very unlikely.
that would be sick.
Not that Joan knows about this because we talked about it
Yeah,
extensively,
we
and
did.
I was on the fence as well before Larb came into creation. I was deciding on whether I was going to go Druid either way. I'm glad I went with the Circle of the Moon to get the extra bestial stuff, but my first consideration was like a torta, like turtle covered in mushrooms and fungus and spores, and just being a Circle of the Spores druid and just being like a big old stink guy.
That would
Maybe
have been
one
a
day.
lot of
That would
fun
have been
too.
interesting. And I also think the whole piety system was incredibly cool because it added an extra layer of complexity to kind of wrap into your character. Like as opposed to just being no discredit to like a vanilla ice cream cone, but there was definitely like chocolate swirl in our character.
Definitely.
yeah,
And you gotta go for that swirl, right?
Yeah,
Like
some
you're looking
sprinkles
for
in
the
there
swirl.
too, you know.
Yeah.
So, like the piety rules for those folks at home, we had an additional system in place where basically, depending on what god or goddess, what deity they were a champion of, they had some additional powers based on how much favor they had earned with their god. And I have a whole list of them. It's based on the stuff from Mythic Odysseys of Theros. I pulled a lot from that book. For those of you who play D&D. So if you ever wanted to say run a story in Pantheon City, you'd want to look into some of the stuff in that book. I
Shouts
could
out Wizards of the
even
Coast.
release like a PDF of all the different gods and goddesses and all their different abilities if folks ever wanted to see that. So let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me know down in the comments on YouTube. We'll see if we can get something like that out. If there's interest.
But it also kind of explained it gave us tasks to do during downtime, right?
Yeah.
Like Larb was always doing random stuff for animals, like in the arena. He found those rats that he scurried to safety. Andromeda was like doing crazy fast, like faster than Amazon Prime deliveries for that piety system. So it really fleshed out everything, which was really cool.
Yeah. It absolutely gave our
Also-
characters more to do in the city.
And just as a reminder for those just now tuning in, you do have the option to throw your own questions into the chat. Looks like we actually just got one.
Oh, fantastic. That's actually Tomio, and he helped me out so much with the writing.
Thank you, Tomio.
Thank you, Tomio.
Tomio is fantastic. Thank you so much. We had like a 4-hour conversation one night that almost feels like a fever dream at this point because I had to try and tie everybody's backstories into my main plot. and like some of them were really easy. Like I had Dr. Levine in there almost immediately. I had Lucian in there almost immediately. It was a little harder to start tying the rest of you into that plot.
Pretty sure I was the hardest, right? Because I was just so out there.
Yeah, I think the hardest ones to tie into the plot were you and Jarid. We had a really hard time tying in Clayton's character Andromeda into the story as well, and then Tomio had this absolutely brilliant idea of like having the harp of Kronos actually be shattered and not whole, and now it's been spread across, and that allowed us to also tie in your character through the esports tournament. And then Clayton got to have that awesome moment in the finale where Andromeda realizes, the final piece is inside Aichimeros. Shatter the blade, remove the last shard. That last scene was absolutely beautiful. I loved it. To answer Tomio's question for all of you, what part of you did you base your character on?
I'll go first. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of just based it off of just kind of myself, I guess. I played competitive League of Legends for Boise State for a little bit, and then I left Boise State. So I kind of just based it off that. But otherwise, everything else I kind of made up, but it's also somehow connected. I basically like everyone's kind of just like a stay home, play video games, and that's pretty much just me. So I kind of based it off myself, mostly with a couple like additions and everything like that. But like I don't have a cat, but I decided to add Gazu because I just thought that was awesome. Having a cat.
It was a fun dynamic.
Having a cat that no one can talk to besides me.
I could also talk to him, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, lucky people can talk to him.
There was a part where I actually thought the cat was like evil. Like I was hypothesizing that the cat was gonna like secretly be like
once you left,
a
Chris,
villain.
we were convinced that Gazu had this all like ulterior motive plot
Yeah.
to take the body the whole time.
Gazu did not. Gazu was not a bad guy. I can confirm that for you now. Gazu is not an evil soul stealing bad guy or body stealing bad guy.
Literally, I pretty much said because I think before I left they said like Gazu's a bad guy, and I was like, I literally messaged Joan. I was like, hey, for the love of God, please don't make Gazu bad, okay? That's just my only request.
It's like Harry Potter, where it's like not Slytherin. Boy, it could be great, you know. He could have been a good villain.
You know what's funny is my house is Slytherin too.
Oh,
it's kind of awkward.
Clayton, you were trying to say something about Andromeda.
Yeah, that's all good. What I was gonna say is, I think Andromeda mostly came from like the character itself on like the sheet came from me being dice head and being just a crunchy dude when it comes to these games, and I love the numbers. I love them. And if you watch the season, I'm sure you could tell. But anyways, I think the character aspects of it, like being, more aloof, being free, like just enjoying a new city, I think those are things that I want, that I sort of experienced when I came to Boise, when I moved to a new city, was just getting some freedom and getting to experience life. And hey, there's some hardship that comes along with that. You're on your own sometimes, but at the end of the day, you get to do whatever you want, and it's great. So yeah.
I can go next, if that's all right. So I have a question that Joan prepared for me that will answer some of this. So I won't go into depth.
We kept forgetting about that, but like I can add that question. It's because it is relevant. Basically, I wanted to know, like, you picked a very unique occupation for Tristan. He's a mortician, and I wanted to talk about like how that influenced the way he interacts with people, the way he talks about things. Like, what happened there?
Yeah, so I think I can kill two birds metaphorically with this, both questions from
Nice.
Tomio and from you. So for Tristan, his backstory was based on the concept that death doesn't have to be this terrible and depressing event or termination point for each and every life. Having Tristan be a mortician was a conscious decision that allowed him to demonstrate the importance of retaining reverence and grace regarding everything about death. Through his position, he can help people obtain what he initially severely lacked, which was closure with his family. And so if he can help people get that, it's kind of like having what you can't obtain, but being able to help other people get it. And it's kind of like a punishment for him, but at the end of the day, it ended up being a blessing. At least that's how I wanted it to be. Additionally, I wanted to be able to bring a lesser known Greek god into the campaign, so Thanatos, and through the unique story of him and his relation to Hades, the man and the place, I wanted to tell a story of love, sacrifice, and overcoming the seemingly insurmountable odds of breaking a godly contract. Tristan's relationship with his parents and his friends, and how it developed, especially with Dr. Juniper and Larb throughout the season, was definitely the highlight for me about Tristan. And ultimately, he comes to like a place of understanding his responsibility in the world and realizes his full potential after several failures where he unsuccessfully used his powers to try to save the people important to him and those in his friends group. And the piece of me that I've included in Tristan is my desire to help others more than I help myself. And then also having a character that is in control mentally, is mature, and again, coming back to putting others before himself. And that's something that I've kind of had difficulty with. Sometimes I can be selfish. I'm definitely not mature all the time, at least. I've been trying, although I am getting older, so it's getting better, I guess, with age. But that's kind of where I'm coming from with him.
One thing that that I think Trevor may have influenced intentionally or otherwise is that there was a very real. I was talking with Grace about this. There was a very real, unplanned like theme of grieving, right? Because a lot of the characters, a lot of them were based around loss, right? Loss of connection, loss of loved ones, loss of or like a loss of connection with a family member because of one reason or another, a loss of like sense of self, a loss of a livable lifestyle. Like we had that, I think that was like a theme, and I thought it was fascinating to watch how every single character handled that differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't think that was necessarily on purpose, but it was designed into his backstory, Tristan's backstory, that he had that inherent loss that he's been suffering, and he's basically just been going through the motions every day. And while he's been trained in this profession, his heart wasn't really in it, and that developed throughout the story. Yeah. But thanks everyone for going through a bunch of depressing times with me. I'm very happy that that Larb, Jared's character, is there for like the comic relief that we needed sometimes, and everyone brought that in occasionally. And again, the relationship that Tristan's had with Larb, I would have liked to see flesh out a little more in the future, or if we had more time in the past.
That is the thing that I wanted most out of this entire campaign. Is I wanted more time. I wanted more time with these characters. I wanted more time to explore this world. I wanted more time to prepare combat encounters. Because I feel like I definitely should have been harder on you guys. I should have thrown harder stuff at you.
Didn't we one shot the book thing?
Yeah, we kind of whooped you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely decimated.
Decimate the final boss in like 2 rounds.
No. The final boss wasn't that short. I think I got 3 or 4 rounds out of you, right? I did a
You got
lot of damage.
3 rounds because Andromeda didn't attack them round 1.
Yeah.
Sure. Gosh darn it. It's okay. The next time I run a campaign, I'm gonna amp up
all the gloves are off.
All the gloves are off. This Glovely is taking her gloves off.
Oh shoot!
I'm Handley.
No, not Handley.
No.
What a joke.
To lead off of sort of what Trevor was talking about, I actually very intentionally made Dr. Levine's character about loss, but not exactly in like the sense of dead parents, although that was definitely there. Again, I'm so thankful Lark was part of the campaign because we really needed that comic relief. Otherwise, it would have been a very dark campaign overall. But, yeah, no, the part, in terms of, to answer Tomio's question, though, the part of thing that I kind of based Dr. Levine off of was basically this love letter to, like, what you lose when, like, some traumatic, fateful life experience, like, happens. Like, I don't want to personally go into details about it, but, like, I definitely had, like, this fateful moment that haunted me for years and completely changed the way I looked at stuff. And I kind of wanted Dr. Levine to be an exploration of, like, okay, what is it like to live with PTSD? What is it like to, like, try to be a high-functioning individual and to fight back against this person who has hurt you so badly? And what happens when society supports that person over you a lot more, which I think we systemically got into at the end, which was definitely interesting to go to. I definitely found it fun to play, especially because in the past year, my life and take on the world has changed immensely. And I'm definitely in a much better place than when I made the character, as Joan can attest to. But yeah, no, she was definitely a fun character to play in terms of exploring those ideas of loss that I think are especially more stigmatized because you don't see a lot of representation, especially of like queer people in media trying to like high functioning and creating positive influence with also that type of trauma that's more associated with men, particularly in society. Some of what I did was definitely based off of lived experience, but I think also weirdly enough, it was my attempt to like make a lighthearted character, and I was hoping for like a more positive overall story arc, and Joan definitely provided that to me.
I think we rewrote Juniper's story like 3 times when we were preparing for the campaign because it was like, this is here is too dark. This isn't family friendly. I have to tone it down. The university's going to get mad at us if I don't like keep us within acceptable bounds. Fun fact, we had to do this with Erwin as well. Erwin was going to initially be a gambler who like gambled at the horse races. And then we had to shift things over in a panic when we realized that, oh no, that's not something we can't endorse gambling. And they were like, oh, he's a gamer. Gamers, like, luck is a big deal for them too, right? So he's a gamer now, and he's a pro esports gamer. We got to tie into the esports arena. I had so much fun making characters with you all. I really tried to push you all to like get you to like flesh out those backstories. We have a whole world. There's a lot of characters that we didn't get to, and a few characters I didn't want to get to and ended up finding their way into the campaign anyway.
Sorry, Joan.
So I guess kind of to go off that. So the story about my picture also is the reason he has two aces is because that's the best hand you can have in poker, and that's initially what we planned on. And then like a couple like weeks before we are gonna start the campaign, we were like, oh snap, we can't do gambling.
A gambler. We can't do a gambling guy.
because we're gonna be connected to the we're gonna be using the esports arena, and thank you, Doc Haskell, for letting us do that and everything like that. But man,
Our original
I was so sad when we couldn't do it.
Gambler. Oh, sorry. We're gambler and drinker.
Yeah, it was. Man, I was so sad. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to make a gambler the next D&D now.
It's fun.
By
By the way, Joan, I think there's some questions for you in chat.
Are there?
They're not in chat,
gosh.
but I have some questions for Joan. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I thought you. Did you mean the Twitch chat?
Oh no, I just meant our chat. You're all good.
Okay.
Our chat.
Yeah.
Our chat.
I did not type them out. I just have a couple questions for
click
you.
the little communication square at the
Oh
bottom.
no, okay.
yeah, on Twitch we have a
These
secret
questions
chat
are
that none
coming
of you
from
will
our
know about.
producer Rae. Okay.
Ooh,
What do you got for me, Rae?
While we're waiting for them to be typed, Larb
wait.
has in part a large portion of just my personal resiliency through life. Obviously, a lot of us have put like personal experiences and thought and emotions and conviction into our characters, but I think the biggest thing that I've always been able to do, and what really carried Larb through as a character, is just the ability to go through things with a smile on their face. I try to do so as much as I can in life. Also, I reverse imagery. I always wanted to be homeless. I think living like out in the wild would be super cool. That's just me.
Okay. Quick correction. No, Rae did not have questions for me.
Someone does.
We have an OBS chat open, and Trevor has their question. Trevor, you could have just said you had a question.
Trevor.
I did. I mentioned I had some, but then I thought Rae did that.
Oh,
I missed. So I was
sorry.
like, I didn't want to interrupt.
You can just say it out loud.
Yeah, I got a couple, but I didn't want to. This train we were about to get on.
This
sounds
is our
pretty good.
time. This is our time
Yeah,
to
okay.
talk about these.
All right, I'll go real quick. So Joan, I was wondering, did you always intend for Saren to become the big bad at the end?
Yes.
Like, was he always intended to be like a
Absolutely.
kind of a? Okay. I was just kind of curious.
When I first wrote the campaign of Pantheon City, I was planning for different characters, and I had a longer, more involved plot. There was so much stuff I had to cut out, you guys. So much stuff. There was going to be like a fight in a frat house with Eri, the goddess of discord, and there was going to be all kinds of weird stuff happening, and that was going to be really fun. And then I remembered, probably shouldn't do a frat house. There's definitely going to be drinking there. Dionysus is probably involved. We can't have that going on. And also, like, we just didn't have the time for everything. Again, I had to cut so much stuff due to time. But the one plot line that was always there is that Saren was going to be the bad guy. He was going to collect all of these things, and he was going to use them to try and basically use the election to break Kronos free from Tartarus. And there was, in fact, an ending possibility where he succeeds, and then you guys have to fight Kronos. But we didn't get to that path. So instead, I am very satisfied with the way that the story ended. But I did have a lot of stuff that had to be cut. There was going to be a Minotaur player, and we were going to do a whole plot line in the arena, the gladiators. I'm really sad about that we didn't get to talk about that. There was a character. There's a character I was going to introduce as an informant, and he was, your mom was going to tie into that. It was going to tie into that character. That was going to be your connection. It was going to be so cool.
Gosh.
We had, there was going to be this guy named Mr. D, and he is the modern day version of my favorite philosopher of all time, which is Diogenes. And he was going to do this whole line where there's a bunch of philosophers in a cafe arguing about whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich, and then they come up with an answer, and he holds up a burrito and is like, "Behold, a sandwich." It's going to be great. He was even gonna like talk and be based on a
Mm.
mutual friend of
Mm.
Grace and I. Grace, you
Mm.
probably know who I'm talking about, but so much stuff I had to cut. But Saren was always going to be the big bad, and he was always going to do this particular thing. It's just a question of how does he get those things? How does it tie into the players? Like, why are they invested in stopping him? And Clayton not having like things quite figured out in Pantheon City gave me a great excuse to sort of just organically be like, oh hey, I've got this NPC that I'm totally cool with you like working for, so I'm just gonna slip him right into your friend group there.
It's kind of what I was hoping would happen when I was like, hey, I'm new to the city and have no boundaries or background.
Did you think it was gonna be the big bad?
I was a little suspicious of him. I'd say I knew that he was going to be the big bad probably like 3/4 of the way through the season, but that's pretty good. I feel like.
Yeah, that's pretty close to his big reveal.
Was his like placement in society intentional as well, being like the underling for one of the most powerful people in the city?
Yes. My plan was that Rex Orium, I had like 3 different potential story plots written for Rex.
Did you plan what happened to him? Was that expected at all?
I did not actually expect you guys to raid his factory. I knew it was a possibility. I did know that we don't generally talk politics here, but I will say that Rex was based on some certain people involved in politics and maybe a certain billionaire or two, like very loosely based on them. Obviously, he's like way more charismatic than they are and lives in a world of like magic and stuff. But Rex was always intended to just sort of be a red herring. Like, he is to draw your attention. He's an obvious bad guy. Like, everybody hates Rex Orium. He's a jerk. He's a dick. He's a rich guy who abuses his privilege. Like Rex is supposed to be a jerk. Nobody's supposed to like Rex. And that was supposed to draw attention off of Saren, who's standing right next to him, and also using Rex and his power to gain access to all the various components that he needs.
You know, I have to say, Joan, I like did suspect Saren from the very beginning, but you like threw me off like halfway through where he got like stabbed by another villain. I'm like, okay, there's no way he's bad at this point. You like threw me off. I was suspecting him from the very beginning because of like the way you introduced him and how he's there every time something important happens. And then he gets stabbed, and I'm like, okay, never mind. Like, did he use like time powers to save himself there or something? Or is he just lucky that Grace happened to save him? Was he like, oh, the good guys will save me?
To answer that question, I figured you guys were starting to catch on, and what I did was like, I needed a way to throw them off, to throw you all off the scent, and I needed a way to like to like give an opportunity for my villains to like set up Dr. Levine in a way that would have her give up the Eutylicious equation. It was really hard getting that darn flash drive off of you. Let me know. I had like 5 different plans. A whole bunch of them fell through. One of them was if you remember, Kronos tries to talk to Tristan, as you're walking through the underworld. I was going to set up a deal with Trevor that all you have to do is let Dr. Levine die. You don't even have to kill her. You just have to not save her. And I will break the godly contract on your father.
Ooh, that would have been interesting. That might have worked. Like, I might have done that.
And you walked right past it. I was so upset. I'd been like talking with Rae about how excited I was to set up this deal. You walked right past it. I'm like, I mean, I'm really glad that I eventually got Chris, but oh my goodness.
by embedding it in
Oh,
in
we got
her
another
literal
question, by the
body,
way.
I kind of didn't leave you with a ton of options.
And although we do have another question, I think we're running out of time.
Yeah, we
so-
have. Oh gosh,
That's
it's already
not
that
an easy
time.
question to answer in a short time either.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. We will
Or just like
hold on.
communication.
Let's hold on to that question. There's definitely going to be opportunities for us to be talking here on the channel. We're going to try and be a lot more active here on Minis and Mayhem. We're going to try and be a lot more forward about what's going on. But before all of that, we have one more thing.
Huh?
We're doing that Nintendo one more thing to show.
Huh?
And with
What?
that, I am going to hand things
What's
off
happening?
to your new dungeon master, Clayton McNinch.
Oh, let's go!
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be dungeon mastering for season 2 of Minis and Mayhem. Joan is going to be playing, of course. So we're super excited to have her back.
Super excited. I've got a
And,
character all picked out. I'm excited.
We also have some of our other characters here returning. Not characters, some of our other players here returning. So if they want to identify themselves now.
I'm gonna be getting real spicy in the wilderness, I think, maybe.
And
let's just say I'm gonna be. I have another cat. That's all I'll say. I have another cat.
It's just a trope now.
Unfortunately, some of our other characters,
It's a joke now.
Other situations, weren't able to be a part of prep for season 2, but they will be a part of stuff in the future. So keep an eye out for them. Yeah. And anyways, Rae, if you want to drop that sound. To Cascadia, a world that was much like our own. 20 years ago, Arctech initiated Project Override to reformat organic matter into mechanical structures, to make the enemy into easily controlled automata. Our adventurers will have to find their way across this new world of bones and steel to save themselves and restore balance to a mutated world beyond the prismatic horizons.
I'm so hyped. I'm so
Goosebumps.
hyped. I have no idea what Clayton has planned, but I'm very happy with the character that I made. I'm not going to spoil anything here. I know our party has fewer spellcasters than Pantheon City, although I think everyone in Pantheon City can cast spells, so that's not really saying much.
Yeah, guys.
Oh my
So
goodness.
keep your eyes open for season 2. It's going to be a lot more modern. We're going to have some Magitech in there. It's going to be really fun and interesting, and I'm so happy to be doing it with all these wonderful folks. So thank you all so much, and yeah.
Woo. Let's go.